Well, hey folks, Fat Guy Flies RC. This is the Hobby King BIXLER 1.1 meter simple trainer plane. It's been around forever. I'm wanting to start a beginner series on a very simple series, very simple plane that a first-time pilot will have a real high level of probability of success with, and you can't get much easier than this. You have to worry about landing gear. You can take it anywhere, park. Most anywhere to fly, following your local rules, and get it just a simplified plane. I'm running on a 4-channel, or I'll be using 4 channels to run the plane. Something that's very inexpensive. We're not going to be using any kind of safe or any kind of special technology. Something that, because all that stuff, that safe and the AS3X, that can be very intimidating to a first-time pilot. And so this right here is designed just simple. No kind of stabilization, no wind gyro. We're just going to put a simple receiver in it and take it up. I'm going to teach you the basics of how to fly a plane. Something you can take down your local ball field or park and fly, following, of course, your local rules. And I'm going to teach you, now we're going to put this thing together. I'm going to teach you the basics of how to balance a plane, how to make sure everything's trimmed, bench trim, and get it ready for flight, and putting it together, and all the basics of putting a plane together. And that's what we're going to be doing with this, and can't get much simpler or more high level success than a Hobby King BIXLER. They're absolutely fabulous plane. This design has been around, and I think every major RC plane manufacturer has their version of this. The prop is in behind, so you get very little chance of getting cut. And if you let this plane go, you get up high enough, because the polyhedral that's in the wing, which I'll explain that, this plane will almost self-right itself and land on its own. So let's get everything out of the box, and we'll get our materials, and let's get to building. Alrighty, when you get your box open, you're going to find this is your BIXLER. Everything's packed real well. You have your rudder. Have one of your wings, nice and protected in its own little plastic case, plastic bag. The other wing. Okay. Your elevator or horizontal stabilizer. Wing spar. In your kit, you get your wing bolts, 2 props, which is always a good thing to include 2 props, and your control arms for your control surfaces, and some Velcro. And of course, there's the fuselage protected, held in place with a hot glued piece of cardboard. And that's it inside the box as I knock things over. All right. Go ahead and start going over our individual pieces. All right, normally I don't start with the fuselage, but start with the fuselage this time. All right, got your hatch. Inside is a 30 amp ESC that says it'll work with 2 to 4S, which this plane I'm going to run on 3S. You have a Y lead for your, which I'll explain that in a minute, for your ailerons. Okay, piece of tape there. Down through the fuselage, these 2 wires, these are your 2 wires that will control your elevator and your rudder back there. And they are accessible through that hatch right there. Okay. Nice magnetic hatch. Very nice, dense foam sticker. Sticker starting to come up there, but heat will do that. Okay, nice pointed stickers, high visibility, nice smooth belly to land on. Something I like to do is take clear packing tape and just start right here, and then run along the bottom here. Okay, and that'll just protect the foam, because you'll be landing on, yes, you'll be landing on grass and stuff, but you might hit some gravel, pavement, or whatever, and you don't want to eat up your foam. Okay. All right, let's open up our elevator. I need to get a new blade. That one's getting dull. Okay. Nice thing about the elevator, very simple. It's got a carbon fiber spar that runs through it. Foam hinge, but this is a very inexpensive model. I want to say the whole thing is like $96, $99. Your hinge does have, looks like some laminate reinforcement, which means just a layer of plastic on there, or film on there to kind of protect it. You have to screw in your control arms, no big deal. And I like the way it's got markings on the underside. This will help with orientation. Rudder. The most underused control surfaces in the RC world is the rudder. Again, nice stickers. You're going to be gluing this on. Laminate. So when you look on a hinge, on a foam hinge, and it's shiny, that's laminate to protect that. And now that will wear out with time. You know, you keep using your plane, flying your plane. I mean, heaven forbid you fly your plane, right? But you start flying a lot, and eventually that laminate will break down, the foam will dry out, and you'll need to reinforce that hinge. And there are several different ways of doing that. Here's your one wing. Very nice, dense foam. Like I've said many times, you can see the individual cells, but you can't feel them, which is always a sign that they took time to really let the foam cook in the mold and get nice and strong. Got a nice laminate reinforced hinge there, foam hinge, pinch hinge, which is actually very strong and more than adequate for this type of a model. Nice marking on the underside. You just got to center up your servo, install your control arm, which I will show you how to do that. Yeah, definitely got to change blades. All right. Same thing. Very nice. Whenever you get a model out like this, you got a foam hinge, make sure you kind of work the hinge a little bit. Okay. That's been, who knows how long that's been sitting in the shipping crate, and then it's kind of set there, and it just needs, you need to work your hinge. You need to work it. Now let's take a look at our bag of goodies we've got here. Okay. If I can get my thumbs to work. Here we are, grown man fighting with a plastic bag. We got two props, which is nice. I wish every kit would, if you have a prop, include two props. Come on, don't leave it up to people to have to buy more props. No. Two control rods. You can call them control rods, push rods. What I like to call them, when I refer to the servo being close to the control surface, okay, then I call that the control rod, because it's very close. If the rod runs through a tube and is at a long distance and the servo's long off, like the rudder is going to be, then I'll call them push rods. These are actually for the servos on the wing. Now you got to hook up your both halves of your control, your clevis and the backing plate of the, the control arm and the clevis. Clevis goes on the end of the rods down there, but I'll show you that. And you're just going to screw them into place. Now they're going to need a small Phillips head screwdriver, and the wing bolts are also a Phillips head screwdriver along with the Velcro, but we're not going to need that bag anytime soon. All right, let me change my blade and get my materials together, and we'll be right back. All right, what we're going to start with now is installing our tail feathers. All right, now we've already worked this hinge on the elevator. Okay, now one thing you're going to want to do is test fit your pieces first. That obviously is going to sit in there like this, and see how this is keyed. Okay, looking there, it just sits in there like that. FBI calls that a clue. All right, so now we know that that's going to sit in there just like that, nice and pretty. Okay, so take it back apart. Now we're going to be gluing foam to foam. So anytime I glue foam to foam, I like to score it a little bit. This just gives a little more of a rough area for the foam, for the glue to adhere to. Everywhere where that glue is going to be touching the foam, and it's not a working part or a moving part, I want to score it up a little bit, okay? All right. Now, paying attention to, don't get the glue to where it's going to get into the control surfaces, all right? So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the bottom of the elevator, put just a little bit of glue there, okay? And then I'm going to put glue in the channel here. Okay? This is just good old-fashioned Chinese tube glue. I'm going to put the two pieces together, let them mate together for just a moment. Okay, hold them together. I'm going to pull them apart, and what I'm wanting to see those strings there? See how stringy that is? That's what I'm looking for. I want that glue to get some air in there. Okay? Press that in there like that. We're going to let that sit. Okay? Notice how I got this rod up here, because I've already looked ahead and I know that the control surface to move the rudder is going to be on that side. So, careful not to get glue down here. We'll put a little glue there, a little bit of glue there, and then in that channel. Okay, it's going to hold my rudder together. A little there, a little there, a little there. Okay. On all the surfaces, get all that together. And keep in mind, I'm trying to film and put my model together at the same time. All right. Wipe off the excess with your finger and then just rub together. And make sure when you're putting these, always glue your fingers together. It's sort of a tradition. Get glue everywhere. It's got to be everywhere. Okay. All right, we're going to let that set up for just a moment. Okay. And while we're doing that, we're going to turn our attention to installing our control rods or our control arms in the aileron, on the wings. So we can set that off to the side. And I'm going to do one, and then, but the procedure is the same for everything, okay? All right, now what you've got here, got your aileron, okay? Get into your kit that has all your control arm and your clevises and your screws. Go ahead and open that up. Now you've got some metal screws in here. So I highly, highly suggest a magnetic tray, okay? Open that up and pull them in. That way them screws will stay in that magnetic tray and you won't have a screw loose like I do. Okay, now, when you're putting control arms in, or control rods in, or I'm sorry, clevises, control arms, the things that move the control surface. See how that's angled? See how that's angled there? Sorry, I'm looking at what I'm doing, but I'm not looking on the screen to make sure you can see it. But see how that's going to be angled towards the servo, like that? Okay, it's clear, so you're probably hard to see. Okay. All right, see how it's like this, and this end here, this end goes this way, okay? So what you're going to do, let me get you a little bit closer here, okay? I'm going to take this, okay? Put that right in there like that. And on the underside, these are going to sandwich together. There's going to be two screws that hold them together. Okay. I'm going to get one done, and then we'll pause. And I'll do it. I'm going to get all the control surfaces done. But I want to show you the procedure. All right. Magnetic screwdriver is helpful in this situation. You can take your, always drop the parts a couple of times. It's just part of tradition. Run it through there. Okay. And if it doesn't, if it has some resistance, that's a good thing. Okay. I'm going to shove this through here. Okay. All right. See how that it is? Okay. And then on the back, see the screws come through, that backing plate? I'm going to put that backing plate on there, hold it in place with my finger, kind of sandwiching everything together. Okay. And that's threaded. All right. Yeah, that's threaded. I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to take me another screw now. And I don't think you have enough screws to put 4 screws in everything. But 2 is all you need, but make sure they're on opposite poles. I'll show you what I mean by opposite poles here in just a second. Dang it. Sometimes I'll do this here. I'll pull it, go the opposite way. Making sure it's lining up with the screw on this side. Okay. So far, so good. Okay. Might have to guide it in there a little bit of pressure. Okay. All right. Okay. Tighten this one down, but don't tighten it down so much because you don't want to smash that foam too much. All right. Now this is what I meant by opposite poles. I put one here and one here. And then on the other side, screw there, and screw there. Okay, I now have a good connection for my aileron. All right. Now, I'm going to do all the control surfaces, and we'll be right back. All righty. I've got all the control surfaces, or the control arms, installed. See how that is on the rudder, facing the push rod? Okay. On the elevator, on the underside. See how that's facing the push rod there? All right. Let me show you on the, and then on both the wings, same thing. Got the control arm facing the servo. All 4, and you do get enough screws to have 8, have all 4 in each one. Total of 16, okay? And you do get 1 extra left over after all said and done, and that's what it's gonna look like, okay? Now you could go in there and shave that off if you wanted to, but I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, so now you have all the basics to set up the model, to start putting the model together, okay? Let's go ahead. Now, you could go ahead and install your receiver at this point. Okay, let me get you positioned better. So let's just go ahead and get our receiver installed, and we'll show you how that process, and we'll get her bound up. All right, get your transmitter on and get it to whatever page you use to add a new model, okay? All right. Okay, aggro. All right. Here's where I'm going to name it. Okay, BIXLER. All right, now here's my basic model. Okay. Now, so I've got it, the basic idea. I've got this transmitter set up, ready to receive from my ready to receive information from the receiver that I'll install on the plane, and we'll hit bind and we'll get them talking to each other. So hold on. All right, we've got it ready to go. We got a basic profile set up in the transmitter. So now we can go ahead and finish assembling the plane. Let me set you back just a little bit. This is all done. Your tail's all put together. So let's go ahead and turn our attention to the wings. Okay, and just to let you know, I will end up installing a Spectrum AR410 antenna-less receiver. Just a simple receiver. Okay. Remember that Y that came with the kit? You're going to need to have that Y. Okay. Have that handy. You're also going to need your 2 carbon spars. Okay. This wing is going to go over here on this side. Got that hole there. Put your carbon spar through. You'll see like a little knuckle in the middle. Okay. I'm going to show you real quick before we go any further. See that hole up in there? See where my finger is pointing? All right. This wire is going to fish through there. And it's easier said than done. Let gravity be your friend. Fish that through there. Okay. Then your wing is going to fit in this groove, like so, by pressure. And see, I've got that wire right there. Push that down. Okay. Take your other wing. Pull the... Okay, take your other wing. You're going to join, put your spar in there. Push that in there. Now pay attention. You got to put that wire. Okay, you got to fish that wire through. You got a little more in the way now because you've also got that carbon spar and the other wing. This is just part of it. Fish that down there through there like that. Now would be a good time to take your other screwdriver or something long to reach up in there and grab them wires. You just got to push them down in there like that and make sure they're free, not pinched in any way. Like I said, you're letting gravity be your friend. Okay. Kind of shake them a little bit. You can see them kind of hanging down there. This is why I like having something long. Grab a hold of them wires and pull them forward. And grab a pair of needle nose. I got part of them. Okay. There's one there, and there's the other one. All right, now, see the 2 ends hanging down there, right there? There's one there. There's one there. All right, now, what I want to do, I've got them, going to hook up my Y lead. Now, polarity is everything. Okay, I'm trying to hold this and show you. Interesting. All right. See how you got that yellow wire, red wire, and a brown wire? The dark and the red is always going to be the positive is the red, and the black or the brown is your negative. But that whatever the light colored wire is, that's your signal. Okay. So you're always going to hook your extension leads or servo leads together in that thing, light to light, dark to dark. Okay. Light to light, otherwise it will not work. You'll power on your model and you'll think, well, how come nothing's working? Well, that's because, now see, like the servo has white wires, but look, see how the yellow signal wire is there? Leads up to the white wire here. On that side, same thing. You got the dark here, the yellow's on the inside, white's on the inside. It's always going to be light to light, dark to dark. So always remember that's always going to be your polarity. Light to light, dark to dark. Now, let's grab our 2 long screws. Okay. Should be in the bag that had your Velcro. Okay. Go ahead and pull your Velcro out. Let's get our 2 long wing screws in. Phillips head. All right, they should just drop. If you got them wings inserted all correctly, should just drop right in there. Might have to do a little bit of fishing. And I like overkill. Now, when you're putting in screws like this, anytime you're putting a screw in, especially a big honking screwdriver like this, as soon as you get bottomed out, just take your fingers, see the top of the screen, see my fingers? Just a little bit of hand tight there. Just one, make it nice and tight. Okay? And that wing is on there. It is not coming off. Okay? That wing is not coming off. Okay, now let's take our Velcro. And we're going to put our Velcro in the very bottom of the fuselage here for our battery. Now, I always like, the way I remember it is, I put fuzzy on my batteries, and then I put the prickly side inside the model. That's just what I've always done. Some people do it the opposite, and they put fuzzy fuse, but I like to have the hard or the prickly side in there like that. All right, now the other thing I'm going to do while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and cut me off a little piece of 2-sided tape. Okay, that is going to be for my receiver. Okay, nice thing about this is not a gyroed receiver, so it doesn't really matter where in the model as far as having it secured, but you do have to make sure that it's not going to flop around. All right, now in the kit, you've got several wires here. Okay, the wire coming out of this funny looking thing here, this is the ESC. This is your throttle. Think of this as your gas. Okay, these are your ailerons because we just joined them up, and then this one's labeled elevator, and this one's labeled rudder. Okay, now on Spectrum, some receiver protocols are different, but with Spectrum, think it of as TAIR, or T-A-E-R, TAIR. Okay, so throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. And then everything after that, if you had a 6-channel, it would be gear, and then thrap, and then flap, and then aux 1, aux 2, aux 3. But in Spectrum, it's always going to be channel 1 is always going to be a throttle. Now in a Spectrum, you do have a, think of it as 0 channel. Okay, that would be your bind or a data port, but the next one down is actually 1. 1 is always throttle. So I'm going to take up that throttle servo lead from the ESC and think of the top of the receiver. Almost all receivers are this way. The top of the receiver where you can see, that's the, think of that as the signal side. So the white wire on the ESC is going to go towards the top. So in other words, the top of the receiver, the top of the white wire or the yellow wire, whatever is the lightest colored wire, is going to be towards the top or where all the stuff is on the receiver that you can read. Okay, and then next is, after throttle, is aileron, so my A. So that Y lead is going to plug in there like that. If I can get it to line up. Anything that fits tight is always good. Next is going to be elevator. Okay. And then after that, it's going to be rudder. So, before I mount it, I want you to look. You can see on the receiver, the signal wires, the white wires, the lightest colored wires are towards the top of the receiver. Okay? There's very few receivers that don't follow that configuration. All right, I am now going to take the double-sided tape and I'm going to mount the receiver. Okay, I want to mount it away from where I have the battery. Okay. Move all my wires up out of the way. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to get some more double-sided tape and we're going to mount that ESC. Hold on. Okay, we're back. Now, what I did was I actually used some double-sided Velcro and mounted the ESC to the side of the wall, and there's where the receiver is, and that's where I've got the Velcro for the battery. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, put the battery in there on that Velcro. Okay. These, BIXLER has the connector from the ESC, has what you call an XT60. This is just the type of connector. And this is the male end. See the two prongs? And that's the female end. That's what's on the battery. Has the two receiving prongs. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, plug the battery in. Okay? And now, I'm going to go to the receiver. I'm going to press that bind button. See how now that's flashing? That means it's in bind mode. And what that means is it is wanting to receive signal. It's wanting to talk to a transmitter. It doesn't know who yet. So I'm going to go to my transmitter. We'll hold the bind button down. Hit the bind button. Hold it down.
Binding. Bind complete. DSMX 22 milliseconds. Telemetry.
Okay, let it go through its thing and figure it out. That way they're going to finalize their relationship. They're going to start talking to each other. Okay, now I should hear movement. Hear that?
Timer stop. Timer stop.
Okay, now I'm going to unplug because that ESC did not arm. Okay, I'm going to unplug the battery. Okay, we'll plug it back in. And what I'm wanting to hear is I'm wanting to hear a beep, 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 but it didn't. So what happened was, listen to this. See, now it, but we didn't get to hear it. So the throttle trim was not all the way zeroed out. It needs to be all the way zeroed out, all the way at the bottom. Okay, well, I guess that's just how that ESC. Yep, there's my, oh, we need to find that. That was the prop adapter. It just comes slinging off of there. All right, we'll find that in a minute. All right, biggest thing right now is we've got to get these servo control surfaces hooked up. Okay, we don't have the prop on, so we're not in any real danger. Okay, let's start with, we'll start with the tail here. Okay, start with the elevator. Now I know that my elevator servo is now centered because I've got, see here, see how that's moving? All right, so now I need my stuff. Okay, as soon as I find it, my little bag of, okay, right here. All right, these are your clevises. Okay, they're just little connect, and this is thread. This is just threaded on. So what you're going to do is you're going to screw this on here. Okay, and just screw that on. And what I'm looking for is where the clevis attaches is for this to be level, okay? For this control surface to be level. So I've got to attach this in such a way to where it's a level. So I'm going to have to screw this in further. That looks pretty good right there. Actually, that's too far now. What I'm doing, I'm feeling the very ends of these to make sure this is level. I'm going to keep screwing it in or out until it attaches to where this control surface remains level. That's still a bit too much, so I need to go back out some more. Remember, left to loosen, right to tight. A little bit more. You just keep playing with it back and forth until you get it to where you want it. That feels pretty good. Now, I just loosely have connected that on there. But as you can see, when I let go, it comes back to being what I call bench trim. Okay? And I'm going to anchor that down. It has little pops in there. Okay? And now, I've got that taken care of. Now my elevator's hooked up. I'm going to show you another thing you might want to do. This doesn't come with a fuel tubing to secure that, but that's okay for now. All right, we're going to do the same procedure for the rudder. Okay, I can see where my control surface is, or my control rod is. There's the end of my push rod. I'm going to start screwing these in, and I want these two to line up to where this stays level. Okay. In this case, level straight up and down. Might be easier, use a plane stand is just a great, if you don't want to buy a plane stand, you can make one out of PVC and put that insulated tubing or foam tubing around it, like a pool noodle stuff, to touch your model. All right, that looks pretty good right there. We'll hold it in place, and I'm going to eye up these two pegs to where they... All right, that looks pretty good right there. Hook them together. That feels level. Okay. And see, when I come back, when I let go, see how that's lined up? Okay, now turn our attention to the wings. We now have I'm just going to do the one, and then you can, off camera, I'll do the other, but the same procedure. Okay. All right. See it moving? Okay, I want this to be level here. So I'm going to take out my two control arms. Okay. Z bends, in other words, they fit right through the hole on the servo arm. Okay, push that through. See how that's moving now? Okay, and then I'm just going to screw this in and out until it attaches to where this is level. Okay, I don't have enough room in the man cave. Almost there. Hold it in place where it's level, and then put your pin through there. That looks pretty good. And that's locked in. Now, while we're here, something I was talking about when it comes to security, lots of times they'll provide a little bit of fuel tubing that you can slide up over that. Well, they didn't in this case. So what you can do in place of fuel tubing, and there's several ways. You could have put a piece of shrink wrap on there and heat it up, but of course you got the foam, so it's dangerous. But another thing I like to do is take a real simple, cheap zip tie. And what I'll do is I'll fish this around here like this, and I'll anchor that down, okay? And then just lop it off, and that will keep that clevis locked on there. Now, I'm not going to do it with this one. I just want to show you this an option that you have, okay? All right, let's pause right there. I'll get the other one taken care of, and I'll find that prop nut. All right, found my prop nut, and I hooked up the other aileron. You can see on the, everything's working. May not be going the right way, but we'll deal with that in just a minute. Right now, this is crucial. Just get in the habit of doing this. I'm going to teach you how to properly balance a prop. And with this, you just need to do it. If you're going to have a plane that has props, you need to balance it. Now, you can have yourself a nice prop balancer. This is I don't know what brand it is. I got it on Amazon for like 30 bucks. There's two ways of doing this. But the key is that you can't have any air. Can't have anything going, no blowing, no fan, nothing going on. All right, and this, something that you can hold your prop, okay, like that. All right, and basically what that means is it's going to hold itself still. In other words, it's not going to favor. So if I was to put this on here and it kept favoring this blade here, then I would know that I need to somehow either make this blade heavier or this blade lighter. Now, the permanent way to do this would be to take a sanding block and sand a little material off the inside of the prop, on the inside surface, until that blade is lighter to where no matter what you do, it always maintains position, okay? Now, it don't have to be perfect. I mean, it doesn't always want to automatically favor one blade. But this is the more measured one. Let's just make absolute sure. Well, shoot. I drop everything. All right, put that in there like that. That in there like that. That there. Okay. Assemble it. This is just holds a prop in place is what this does. Okay, and then put the... Okay, now that holds that in place. And I want to put that on there. And that prop is not favoring any one blade. So if I put it there, it holds its position. There it holds its position. There it holds its position. No matter what. So let's check the other one just for giggles. Okay. Just to see how it's doing. All right. And that prop is not favoring any one blade. So that's a perfectly balanced prop. They're both perfectly balanced. So that's good. That's a good thing. Less work for us. All right. Now off camera, I went ahead and established throttle cut. Okay. And all that is for Spectrum is you go in here, go to model adjust, throttle cut, okay, and then you pick whichever switch you want. I wanted H, okay, and then I went back, and now I've got it's on, so I flip it off. Now the prop doesn't work. Okay, just go ahead and do that. Go ahead and have the throttle cut. That's just a safety thing. Okay, now applying your prop, installing your prop. Okay, the motors are going to turn counterclockwise. So in other words, the prop is going to turn this way. Okay, so look at your blades. If it's going to turn this way, Well, if it turns this way, the way this blade is, that's going to push the air forward. So I'm going to turn it this way, okay? And that way, if I turn it, if I go this way, I think that's the way it's going. No, let's see. You can actually this is where you would see it. Okay. Okay, no, it's going that. Okay, that's right. Never, my mistake. This is a pusher. I'm not used to pushers. I'm used to tractors. This is a pusher. Tractor is the blades in front, pulling the plane. Pushers, the blade is in the back, pushing the plane. So in this case, the prop is going to turn this way, okay? So I need the air to go backwards. So that blade should turn into the force. So see the way this is bladed, the way this is turned? It should dig into. If you're absolutely not sure, install it and see which way the force is. Okay. Should fit right on there like that. Make sure your throttle cut's on. Okay. We're going to put our prop on, our nut on. I'm not going to anchor that down yet because I want to make sure I got it going on right. But see how that looks? All right, now I'm going to carefully. All right, good. I feel air behind it. All right, throttle cut back on. That way I know it's not on. Now I'm going to go ahead. The other thing, real quick, I want to make sure this is balanced. Make sure I got it on there balanced. I'm going to look at it sideways, okay? And what I'm looking at a direct side view to seeing deviation in that prop, okay? So I'm going to hold it like this away from me. All right, and I don't see any kind of vibration. And see, I'm seeing the white background behind it. See how that prop looks like it's solid, not vibrating up or down? It's not going this way or this way? Okay, that's what I want. So now I know she's balanced. I know she's balanced by way of, because even though the prop may be balanced, the way you attached it may have been a small piece of material or something in there causing that to not be anchored down. Now there's a little hole there. So you're going to take a little screwdriver or an Allen wrench or whatever will fit through there and anchor that down. Like a thin screwdriver is perfect for this. Keep that prop away just in case you bump your throttle cut or something. Okay. Remember, right to tight, left to loosen. Okay, that's on there. Now, we're going to bump it one more time just to make sure. Okay. All right, throttle cuts back off again. All right, now, see, I hit my throttle. See, nothing's happening. Okay, now, let's take a look at this model. Let's look at our control surfaces. All right, now, when I go right aileron, that aileron should go up, and it does. So in other words, if I go right aileron, that's going to push that wing down, which would make the plane bank to the right. All right, let's look at the other aileron. All right, left aileron, this goes up, which would turn this wing this way. Okay, it would bank the plane this way. Okay, it would push that aileron, pushes that wing up, this aileron pushes this wing down. Okay, and that's correct. Now, let's look at our elevator. So we know our ailerons are going the right way. All right. We know our ailerons are going, I lost connection with the camera there for a second. All right, we know our ailerons going the right way. All right, but looky there, our rudder is going the wrong way. Okay, so I need to go in there and change it. Okay, so let's go to model adjust, servo setup. Okay, and I know here's the elevator, hit that, and then looky there. Now my elevator is going correctly. All right, let's check our rudder out while we're here. All right, rudder's wrong. See, when I give left rudder, it's going right. Okay, that's wrong. If I go this way, that rudder should turn that way. So my rudder is opposite too. So now I just hit opposite, okay? Now, see, look, there. Okay, so now our rudder's going right, our elevator's going right, correctly. Now our ailerons are going right. And we've got a throttle cut on, okay? Everything is going correctly, so we're in good shape. Let's pause there. All right, let's recap what we've got so far. Got our plane perfectly put together, okay? We've got our control surfaces working the right way. We've got our receiver installed. Everything's ready to fly, basically. And we got a throttle cut for safety, all right? Now the most critical part next is CG. All right, now CG on this plane didn't come with a manual, okay? But on this particular plane, I know that the CG is directly on the servo wire. I know that from watching the manual, rather the online manual about it, okay? So on that servo wire. So let's check it. I'll put my fingers right on that servo wire. And look, she's tail heavy. She's wanting to be tail heavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that battery. That's a nice thing about this kind of a thing. Move that battery further forward, okay? And now, still a little bit tail heavy, but not nearly as bad. See if we can't go a little further forward. All right, a little bit further forward now. And now, perfectly CG, perfect CG. Now that's just by your fingers. Let's actually use, this is actually Hobby King product, which unfortunately is now out of stock. I wish it wasn't. They don't make this anymore. But it's a CG machine. And all you're doing is you put the plane actually on the CG mark and you watch it balance. Okay, which that's on that servo wire. And that's on that servo wire. And looky there, because it would rotate back or forth. I use this thing for all my expensive jets. I use this for everything. To balance all my planes to make sure that they're right on the CG. I find the factory CG and I move my battery back or forth based upon the factory manual, the manual CG. And then I move my battery back and forth to get this plane to level. And right there is basically perfectly level, maybe slightly nose heavy. So I'm actually going to pull that battery back out just a little bit. Just a nice thing about Velcro. Okay. Get it right there. Right there. Make sure I'm on the CG marks. Oh. May have put that battery just a little too far back. So all right, there we go. That looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to take a magic marker and mark where I've got that battery, and that's where I'll anchor down the Velcro and everything to leave it right there. Now, if there's not enough connection, you can always put a longer, you can always put more Velcro in there, or you put a piece of foam in there to hold the battery in place, whatever you've got to do. But now we know where CG is. We know where the plane balances well. We're now for basic ready to flight. Now, when it comes to Expo and throws and all that, we'll cover that after the maiden. I will show you how to fly this thing, and then we'll cover all the rates and all that stuff after the maiden. So thank you so much for watching. Hobby King, thank you for the plane for review. It's a good plane. It's a good beginner plane. Great. It's a great FPV. You can put FPV equipment in here. Just a good stable craft, simple flyer, nothing fancy, but a lot of fun. Yeah, like I say. All right, well, folks, thank you so much for watching. This is Fat Guy Flies RC, and this is the Hobby King BIXLER 1.1. Just a great beginner plane, and I'm going to try my best through video, teach y'all how to fly a basic glider, because these skills that I'm going to teach you with flying a plane, how to basic fly, you can apply and grow into other more expensive, more advanced, faster, more in-depth planes, all the way from here to a 90 millimeter EDF, okay? Jet. All right, God bless y'all. Thank you so much for watching. This is Fat Guy Flies RC, and this is the Hobby King BIXLER 1.1 trainer. Bye-bye.